Do you want to know how to make a child take responsibility? I'm Nicholeen Peck and I teach self-government, and that's what your child needs if they are going to learn to choose to take responsibility for themselves. So we're going to be talking about responsibility in this video. In this video, we're going to talk about what we can and can't make our children do, and we're going to talk about the skills that a child needs to learn to take responsibility for themselves. Now, the things I'm going to be talking about in this video are not just for one particular age of child. In fact, everything I'm talking about is going to be for all ages. In fact, it's kind of for all ages of, well, everyone, all people, because we all need the skills for how to take responsibility for ourselves. But the question I have is, can we actually make someone take responsibility for themselves? Well, no, we can't. We can't make a person take responsibility. We can enforce, we can encourage, but we can't make. Why is that? Well, when a person chooses to take responsibility, it's an inner thing. They decide that they want to have that power over themselves. They decide that they want the responsibility. But as long as they don't want it, they will start to push it off on you. Well, you made me. Well, you won't let me. So the words that we use in our home are very important. When my child earns a negative consequence, I don't say, I'm giving you, you will now have to. I don't say anything like that. I say, it looks like you have chosen to earn. Oh, now it's all them. They chose, they earn. It's their decision. It's their self-government. Many people say, I'm going to give you this negative consequence. I will take this away from you. And so that immediately creates a boundary between parents and children. And when we do that, the children think that we're doing everything to them, that they don't get any choice of their own. And we mistakenly think sometimes that we can make them choose to take responsibility for themselves, like making their bed without being asked or told to, and choosing to do their chore without any prodding or nagging. All those things are possible, but it's not us making them do any of it. It's them deciding that it's a good idea. In fact, it even feels good, slightly liberating even, to master themselves and to do certain skills. So how do you create that environment? Let's talk about that. We're talking about self-government here. All of the skills and suggestions that I'm giving you relate back to the principle of self-government or self-mastery, meaning that a person can determine, this is how I would like to behave. This is the outcome I would like to have. This is how I want to feel in a certain situation. And so I'm going to make a plan to do that. That's what it means to self-govern yourself. And when a child understands that they too can self-govern them, that it's not about you taking and giving and making, then they start doing surprising things. So one of those things that we do when a person is learning self-government at the very beginning is we start at the vision stage. What do they want for their life? What do they want for their future? Now, many people ask, how do I help my child take responsibility? And that child is 17 years old. Well, this is a really good time to say, what do I want my future life to be like? What do I want adulthood to look like for me? What do I want to know I've done for myself, with myself? So those children need to be looking ahead. Start with 5 years and say, who do I want to be 5 years from now? Now, if my child was younger, then I would suggest looking ahead even further. I might suggest looking ahead 20 years and saying, what type of skills do I want to have? What do I want my happiness to look like? What type of relationships do I want to have with other people? And those adult skills and those relationships feel big. They feel empowering to a young child. So start these relationships young, but if you haven't started yet and your child is a lot older, that's okay too, because I did start doing all of this that I teach on this channel when I was doing foster care, treatment foster care for troubled youth ages 12 to 18. And we helped them get a vision of their lives, and it made a big difference. We're going to get to some skills that you can use, but before I do that, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I put out videos like this every single day, and you're not going to want to miss them. They will help you help your children take more and more responsibility all the time. Click subscribe now. Speaking of skills, One of the key skills that your child must know, or they can't ever learn self-government. In fact, it is the basic of all of the skills of self-government, is how to follow an instruction. If they can't follow an instruction or won't follow an instruction from you, then they won't follow an instruction from themselves later. And ultimately, self-government means that you are giving yourself your own instructions, your own no answers, your own consequences. You're telling yourself what you've earned for a negative consequence. You're praising yourself. You're parenting yourself. And when things go wrong, you're disagreeing appropriately with yourself too. So I just listed all of the 4 basic skills. But the most basic of all of those basic skills is following an instruction. Now, if you have children that are maybe under the age of 12, this book is such a great book. This London LeRae Says Okay is actually a book written by me, and it teaches the skill for how to follow instructions to the children in a fun way. The story rhymes, and you see the consequences of not following instructions and the consequences of following instructions. The children really enjoy it. So what is that skill, following instructions? Because it's vital. If a person can learn to follow instructions from you, then they'll learn to follow instructions from themselves later as well, which is what is required to take full responsibility for yourself. So the steps are, you look at the person, or maybe it's the situation at hand, and you keep a calm face, voice, and body. Then you say, okay, like this is what I have to deal with. Or you disagree appropriately about it, meaning you think about it a little bit more and decide if this is really the important thing to do or if you need to talk to somebody about it. Then you do the task immediately, and then you check back, which means you come back to the person who gave you the instruction and you told them that you did it. Now, if we're talking about ourselves here, then we would tell ourselves, hey, I did it. And maybe even take a minute in a journal or even verbally to give ourselves a little bit of praise. That check back is important because it teaches us that good equals good. It teaches us cause and effect. And a person can't learn self-mastery, which is really what you're asking for if you want responsibility, unless they learn cause and effect too. The teaching needs to be done in a way where they are absolutely choosing it though, which means that you teach these skills I'm talking about and then you provide consistency. So what does consistency look like for a person who is teaching another child? It looks like praising when things go right, and it looks like correcting when things go wrong. Now the corrections need to be positive. They need to be optimistic, but firm at the same time. And there are certain steps to a correction that I teach in my parenting course, the Teaching Self-Government Parenting course, and you can find more about that at teachingselfgovernment.com. But the key things I want to share with you here are the consistency matters. That if you are going to teach your child to take responsibility and have them decide on their own that that's a good idea, which is a really maturing process, the process of taking responsibility is a process of maturity. So you know when a person does take full responsibility, they've got good maturity, and they probably have some good character development as well that has happened. So you need to be focusing on helping the child grow up, which means they need more responsibilities through instructions, and they also need to be held accountable for those responsibilities with more corrections. Now, I know that takes a little bit more work, but it's worth it. And in the long run, they need it in order to be fully successful and happy in their adult lives. Hopefully this has been helpful with how to help your children take responsibility. If you've enjoyed this video, I know you'll probably enjoy the next one too, which is how to know if you have a strong-willed child. Do you think you might have one of those? Many people do nowadays, so click on the link below and find out if you have a strong-willed child too.